Whew, it is cold down here. Wowzers. Man. Alright, hey there guys. You're probably here for the giveaway. We have a 110 Junior Megabass. Pretty cool early spring smallmouth smasher. And also, I don't even know if you can see this. I'll take it out of the packaging for you. This is the, I'd say the big lure. This is a DPM Death Paws Minnow 5.5 inch Lee Lures crankbait, jerkbait that is, jerkbait. These things are super expensive and also bloody awesome. The last part of the giveaway is going to be that fly. If anybody chooses a fly, I'm going to get one from muskyfool.com. So, for the giveaway, I'm looking right now at the video, and right here it looks like there were 125 comments made on the video. Probably half of those were from me responding to people, but there was a lot of engagement, and that's really cool. I did just go over into, I think, like 3,500-ish subscribers, so awesome, awesome, awesome. Right now, I'm going to jump to the video upstairs showing my screen, and it's going to show who wins, and then I will be announcing that. So, here we go. We're going to do this twice. Alright, Robert Easton. Alright, so Robert Easton, you have won. I'm going to go ahead and be contacting you. You'll have your pick of the Death Paws Minnow, the Megabass, or the Musky fly. Alright, right on. We are now going to pick another winner. And here we go. Alright, Jeff Zeck, you are going to be the second winner. Congratulations. You'll be able to pick from the Megabass, the DPM, or the Musky fly after our first winner. Alright, so congratulations to those two subscribers. I hope you guys catch something with these lures. Hopefully you catch something before you lose it to an underwater snag. That's always a frustration for me, losing a lure before I even catch a fish on it. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Winners, be sure to go through my website and send me an email, and I will communicate with you, communicate with me, and I will then send that stuff out to you. All right. I'll also be looking for a couple of little decals and whatnot I'm going to toss in there. I'm starting to get into decals, making some custom ones, and hopefully you guys enjoy those as well. All right, so now we're going to be on to the question and answer part of this video. I'm going to go through and I'm going to read the questions. I'm going to respond to the questions as best as I can in the moment. I know this isn't done live, but kind of freaks me out doing question and answers live. I don't know what people would ask, and this way at least I have a chance to maybe think about it. So here goes. This question is from Rob Bassmaster. Rob Bassmaster asks, what are your favorite leaders to use for catching muskie and pike? My favorite leaders. Actually, I make my own custom leaders. I've been doing a variety of different things. This year I was practicing using 80-pound fluoro, but I realized that I don't really like using fluorocarbon for muskie. First time for me, I just had 100-pound fluorocarbon got bit through. If I'm fishing for pike, though, I'm a little bit more forgiving. So 80-pound Seagar Abrase X is the fluorocarbon that I use for like pike fishing. For muskie, though, I do use the tieable wire, and I think it is. I have it right here. The Surflon Micro Supreme 40-pound tieable leader, and I tie that up myself. Yeah, there we go. All right, guys, let's get to the second one. We got Riki Tiki Tavi, I'm pretty sure. Isn't that a mongoose that kills cobras, I believe? I don't know if that's where your name is from, but I believe that's what it is. All right, so his question. Any thoughts on behavior differences between pike and muskie, especially relating to size? Do you think large pike act more like a typical muskie, more following, etc.? Also, have you experimented with dropping your lure lower in the water column and vertically jigging as opposed to a figure 8? More effective for pike than muskie? Question mark. Ooh, Riki Tiki. Let's see. You know, I don't want to be a poser and try to be an authority when I'm definitely not an authority. I am not a great big pike fisherman. Michigan has some big pike, but they are uber rare. You can find them in like the Great Lakes. Like Lake Michigan has some really nice pike. But I don't catch big pike almost ever. I think this last year we caught maybe one big pike. So I don't know. I don't think big pike and big muskie have exactly the same tendencies, but I don't really know. As for the figure 8 and the vertical jig, I do know that some people have caught fish in the vertical jig style, getting back to the boat. I'm a little bit more traditional, but I don't even do like the figure 8. I usually do like a fairly large loop, but that has to do with my raft, and it's a little bit difficult with a spinning rod to get the full figure 8 action. So basically, to answer your question, I don't know, but I would assume that big pike are somewhat similar to muskie, maybe. Who knows? All right. We are on to Jeff Zeck. Hey there, Jeff. Jeff's a cool guy. We've been fishing together, and he asks, what particular skill with fishing have you learned or improved upon in recent years that your viewers' clients could also benefit from? Okay. What skill have I done better at that my subscribers can learn? Net management. That's what I'm going to say. Net management is really important when you're trying to get in a big fish, and it's important to understand how musky nets interact with the water, and especially current. When you have current and you're trying to net a fish with nets that are sometimes 36, 40 inches long, the net can actually come over top of the hoop, I guess is what you'd call it, and it kind of creates a trampoline effect. And so it's important, and I've learned this myself, it's important when you are trying to net a fish and you're holding the net with two hands and you got the hoop down here and you have the net, you take the actual webbing of the net and you hold it up in your hand here, and as you go to then swoop for the fish, you let go of that webbing, and so that the webbing can't get in the way and it can't stop, like it can't cause any problems. And so the fish is in the hoop, and then it pulls out and it goes into the net. And hopefully that makes sense. You know, I have a net right here. It's not a very long net, but you grab this hoop and you actually hold it as you're going, and then you let go of it right at the last moment. And that way, that webbing doesn't get in the way of catching a nice fish. I've had experience losing nice fish due to poor net management, and yeah, everybody can learn from that one right there. All right, so Ben Herman, hey there, man. How are you doing? He says, if you had to choose one color combo for a musky lure fly, what would it be? Color combo, let's see. I really like contrasting colors. I like things that are bright. I don't know if the fish like it, that's what I like. I really like whites and chartreuses. That would be my go-to if I didn't have anything else. But I think it's partially because my eyesight is so poor that when I'm fishing, I like to be able to see the fly, and so it contrasts well with the color of the water, and I can see it. I don't know if that really truly has anything to do with the fish. Some people will tell you that different colors or this and that. I'm not sold on that exactly just yet, but I like the color of white and chartreuse, so that's what I use. All right. I apologize if I mispronounce your name, but this guy's name is Massimiliano R, and he says, how often do you fish on saltwater, and what is your target prey? I can answer this pretty darn quickly. How often? Almost never. I would salt fish more if I could, but Michigan is located so far away from the ocean that it makes it a little bit of difficult for me. So I can only do it on vacations. But I have targeted bonefish, I've targeted permit, I targeted tarpon, snook, bonefish, permit, jacks. I've also targeted jacks. I think I enjoyed targeting tarpon and the jacks more than I enjoyed targeting bonefish and the permit. The permit and the bonefish were just frustrating for me. But the tarpon, the juvenile tarpon that were, and the jacks, they seemed a little bit more eager to come out and play, so that was kind of cool. So yeah, if I had a chance, I'd probably go target some, I don't know, different species of jacks, because they can be a lot of fun. Alex Voss says, how do you decide whether to use a wire or heavy fluoro leader when musky fishing? I think I already went over this. I know I went over it in a different video, but I used to use this 80-pound fluorocarbon until I had a 32-inch muskie bite straight through it this year. There were no nicks in it, nothing. A 32-inch muskie came up. I was watching it under the boat, straight through 80-pound fluoro. And that was when I realized it's just not really worth your time to use fluoro at all. You might as well just use a tieable metal of some kind. Even like the 40-pound metal tieable leaders should be better. They should be better. And you can use them even fly fishing as well. I mean, definitely use metal leaders when you're fly fishing. So that's my answer. Go wire. It's not like the olden days where the wire was, it would kink and it would have like, terrible action. Nowadays, the wire is pretty darn good. All right, Stephen Beaupre. I'm not sure if I said that right. Sorry if I screwed that up. He says, what would you consider yourself more, a general and general angler, or more of a warm water or cold water angler? Easy answer. I am a warm water angler. Um, I do sometimes fish cold water, but definitely not my style. Don't really know what I'm doing. If you guys have watched my trout videos, I can catch them sometimes, but I would never know what I was doing to guide somebody for cold water species. So definitely warm water. That's my cup of tea. Not only warm water, but if I can be out there in my shorts, wet wading, that's like the best. All right, so 45 Bodie says, in your experience, what is your favorite change-up lure if you have a musky follow and go to a lure? Oh, okay, so if you have a follow, what is your throwback lure? Um, that's a great question. Um, Almost always it's going to be subsurface. I don't like doing throwback lures that are surface baits. And I don't really know why that is, but I just definitely prefer to go subsurface. I also prefer to do something that is a little bit more stationary, something that gives a little bit more hang time. So potentially like maybe a glide bait, potentially something that suspends, um, potentially a death pause minnow. I know I've said that a couple times this video already, but I really like those death paws. It'll just suspend right there in the water column for a long period of time. Uh, Earlier this year, I was fishing with the death paws, and I got it back to the boat, and I just sat there and I looked at it for probably like 30 seconds, and my eyes, I looked kind of into the water. I'm like, what the heck is that? What is that, right? And it's like, there's a muskie literally just chilling there, just watching my death pause, as I was also just watching the death pause. So, Bodie, that is my throwback lure. All right. Well, this is another name I'm not quite sure how to pronounce. Grame Kulas, maybe? Oof, I think I butchered that. I apologize. He says, have you noticed any benefits from Floral fly leaders for muskie? How heavy do you go? Okay, well, a lot of people are interested about leaders for muskie. Again, don't use fluoro. Use tieable metal. This stuff. That's what I would use. There's really, just no reason to use fluoro. The tieable metal is lighter and much, much easier to cast with a fly, and I don't really see any benefits to using fluoro if you're fly fishing. I'm trying to think about it, but truthfully, just you want something light and also that's going to stop a bite off, and that bite wire works, so use it. All right, let's see. We got Hockey Guy 515. I think the 515 is maybe in like Wisconsin. Maybe that's the 615. Who knows? So if you're from Wisconsin, cool. He says, okay, well, this question actually has nothing to do with fishing. He asks about my master's degree. I am a teacher in the off season of fishing. And so my degree is actually in educational instruction, which hopefully means that I somewhat might know what I'm doing in the classroom. We hope. All right. I'm sure some of my students are watching this right now, so hey guys, hola. Slurpy Films says, what kind of fishing do you find more enjoyable? Revisiting and learning the same stretch of river, or scouting new locations? So, Slurpee Films, definitely new water. New water is extraordinary. I love new water. Every single bend in the river, every rock, in my mind, holds a monster fish. And even if I don't catch that fish, in my mind, it's the potential it's going to happen. The more I do a river, the more I learn that river, and I realize that not all water is productive water, but my first time through it, I feel like it's productive. So in my mind, new water, always, I love it. Nathan Hook says, what's your favorite topwater to throw for muskie? I don't know if you can see it. It might be off frame right here, but this little guy up here in the corner, it is a, what is it? It's a maybe it's called a Lil Bastard. I think it's done by Lake X. Is that right? You know, honestly, I can't actually remember the name of the brand right now, but I think it's called a Lil Bastard. I know they also make like the Cannonball, and they make the Dr. Evil, I think. Maybe this is actually a Dr. Evil. I have no idea, but I had a lot of fun using that lure this year. It's a propeller style topwater, and I had a lot of fun with it. It comes in a compact size, which I like, but there's heft to it, and it seems large enough to, catch some nice fish. So there you go, Nathan Hook. That's what I enjoyed. We got Mr. Tully 41. He asks, how many different states have you fished in? I have no idea. That's a couple. I haven't fished that much around the United States. I've traveled fairly extensively in the world, but mostly that's been traveling and not fishing. But actually, like in the States, I haven't traveled that much, and the places I have traveled to have not been fishing oriented. My most experience when it comes to fishing has definitely been in the Midwest, in the northern Midwest, I guess we should say. Also then in Alaska. So Alaska and Michigan, those are the two places that I feel like I have somewhat of a fairly decent idea on how to fish, but other states, not so much. All right, Evan Slayton says, what is the weirdest bait you have used to catch a pike? All right, weirdest bait that I've used to catch a pike. He says that he's used raw chicken. I don't fish for pike very often. I mean, they bite all the time, but I don't really fish for them. I'm trying to think of when I was younger if I used something wonky. Probably I did. And I guess it's not a super weird lure, but I have I don't know where it's at. It's right here. Can you guys see this? This is a jointed pike bait, and it's probably the weirdest lure that I've actually targeted pike with. Pike are cannibals, and they smash that thing, and so that's always fun. Every time I catch a pike that eats that, I tell it not to eat its relatives. So that would probably be it, Evan. Fred B says, do you do any hunting, deer, bear, grouse, etc.? Fred, I don't hunt. I have nothing against hunters, obviously, but hunting just isn't really my style. I prefer to be able to let whatever I catch go. If I could do like a hunting where I would, you know, take a picture with whatever it was and then like let it go, I would probably do that. But I don't like the act of killing something if I don't have to. Um, and you know, nothing against hunters, obviously. I eat meat, so I'm not a hypocrite or anything like that. I just personally um, I don't find any enjoyment in that. So I try my best to let everything go that I can catch, um, except for rare moments where you know I will keep a trout once in a while or maybe perch, but it's pretty rare for me to do that. All right, Robert Easton asks about peel and drag. He's somebody that I actually took, uh, I guided, and he's asking about peel and drag and whether he's going to be doing any content on YouTube. Um, I think I saw a comment from Peel and Drag just a bit ago on his Instagram because he does have an active Instagram, and I think he said that he's taking a break from YouTube, but that um, he's still posting videos and pictures on his Instagram. So, Robert, I would encourage you to follow him on Instagram. I know he's been slamming some steelhead, I think is what he's been catching most recently. And if Peel and Drag, if you're watching this right now, you rock, dude. Keep it up. Chris K says, what is your favorite throw for summer smallies? I assume you mean lure, or maybe what's my favorite thing to throw for summer smallies? I'm not sure if you're talking about fly fishing or if you're talking about spin fishing. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that you're talking about fly fishing. So, summer smallies, my favorite thing to throw for summer smallies. I got a video this year of using what's called a CK bait fish in chartreuse. It's a little streamer. It kind of mimics the action of a zoom fluke. That's what they're called. It's been like 6 months since I've fished in the summer, so my brain kind of loses those words. But this CK bait fish is probably my favorite because it mimics the action of a zoom fluke. So that's probably what I like to throw the most. I also had a pretty cool guided client trip this year, and he put me on to the tequila fly. I think it's called a tequila fly. It's a pretty cool little thing. Oh, I actually might have it right here in front of me. Check this out. Well, that's no good. I got some. Kind of got stuck with some other soft plastic.
Nice fish.
This right here.
Nice fish.
It's called a tequila fly. I don't know why it's called a tequila fly. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it catches fish. It's a pretty cool one. Youper Yak TV says, what lure do you recommend every muskie and pike angler have in their arsenal, and why is it the big red and white Darydel behind you? I think you're talking about this. Alright, so I have monster hands. You can see just how big this Darydel is. This is the 300 series. I'm not sure what 300 stands for, but I'm sure you could catch a shark with this. It's huge. So I actually bought that at Superior Outfitters in Marquette. I went in there one day and was looking for, well, I don't think I was looking for anything. I just kind of enjoy going in there, and they were selling some used lures, and I saw that thing, and I said to myself, I need it in my life. When I was a kid, I used a red and a white spoon as my go-to lure, and I used to catch bass and pike and whatever a kid fishes for in a pond. So the red and the white Darydel was my go-to. Actually had a black and a white one too that I really liked for largemouth. But I saw that and I said, hey, that's cool. And so in my mind, I had this idea of making a video and posting on YouTube. The problem is I never really got around to making that video. I did fish with this red and the white Darydel a couple times. I had a couple of nice follows, musky follows on it, but I never spent enough time to actually catch a fish. So I've probably only thrown that thing like for 10 minutes. So I need to get better with that. All right, so back to that question of what lure should a pike and musky angler have in their arsenal. I think there's really only one good answer here, and it needs to be a bucktail of some kind. And it can't be a gigantic bucktail. So, I have some long bucktails over here. There's double trebles on this. This thing's like, I don't know, 9-10 inches long. I don't think that's realistic for a general pike and musky angler. I really think that you need something maybe that's a bit smaller than that. This might be more realistic. This is a Mepps Magnum Musky Killer. It's probably like a go-to, pike / musky style lure. Probably that's what I would say. You can catch musky, you can catch pike, you can catch big bass, big walleye on something like that. You're probably not targeting trophy musky, but all-round lure, a simple, inexpensive bucktail like that is probably your best bang for your buck. Probably. This next question here comes from David Dykowski Fishing. Before I even respond to his question, I want to tell you guys right now, stop what you're doing. Go check out David Dykowski's fishing channel. He runs a YouTube channel, and he catches nothing but big fish. He catches big muskie, big pike. In the winter, he fishes for big bluegill, big walleye, etc. Big Smallies in the spring. If you guys want to watch a trophy fishing angler, check out David's channel. On his Instagram, I think his Instagram is it 906 fish? You know what? I'm going to have to look it up, and I'm just going to put it on the screen. So check out on Instagram for David's content. So David says, what are your fishing related goals for 2022? Well, David, I think one of my goals, and this is something that you and I have kind of spoken about before, but I really want to get onto a 50-inch fish. David and I have communicated over Instagram, and he's a trophy angler, and he's picked up a significant number of 50-inch fish, more so than anyone I've ever met, and that's one of my goals. I really want to catch a trophy caliber fish this year. I don't know if I have the time for that. That's one of the problems, is I'm super, super busy in the summer, usually doing smallmouth trips, but I'd like to try to catch a 50-inch fish. And if I don't personally catch that fish, that's okay. Even if I took somebody fishing and they caught a 50-inch fish, I would vicariously feel like my goal was realized. So, yeah. If you want a fishing buddy someday this summer, you let me know. That'd be pretty sweet. All right, let's go to the next one. We got Joswick. I'm not sure if I said that right. Apologize if I didn't. He says, his question is, do you ice fish more than you record? Yes, I do ice fish more than I record. The problem is with ice fishing, well, there's a couple problems. Number one, it's so cold out that getting camera gear situated for ice fishing is a pain in the rear end. That's the number one problem. Like my camera batteries, my GoPro batteries, they die. They drain their juice so quickly. Number two, this is more of a me problem than like a cold problem, is I suck at ice fishing. So when I do go ice fishing, I don't feel like I know what I'm doing enough to even make a video, and I feel like it'd be a waste of your guys' time watching it. And then number three, in the winter, I'm a little bit sedentary. I stay at home, and I probably play way too many video games. But open water is coming soon, and I'll be back out there. There we go. Let's see. Next question. This comes from Aaron Soto. I'm not sure if this is Aaron Michael Soto or if this is Aaron Sr., but either way, hello to both of you. His question is, considering the places you fish, rivers and streams, what is your typical rig to start when chasing toothy critters? Do you always start with a spinner, topwater, or minnow bait? Is it weather dependent, or do you always begin the fun with a certain lure? Do you have each person in the boat use something different, or do you always tend to start with X? That's a long question with a few different parts to it, but I think we can break it down. If I have multiple anglers, people are fishing different things. I think that's going to be number one. You can't go all in on the same style of fishing until you find success, in which case at that point go all in. But at the beginning of the day, let's say I had 3 anglers. I got a guy in front, I have myself, and then I got a guy in back. Usually the person in front, I'm gonna have fishing topwater. They're just gonna be slinging, and they're gonna be going and seeing what happens. If I'm on anchor and I can fish in the middle, usually I'm going to fish something much more slower presentation. So I'm probably going to be fishing a Ned rig. And then the guy in the back, I'm probably going to have with a paddle tail to go middle of the current. Maybe a paddle tail, maybe a spinner bait, maybe a spinner, maybe a jerk bait, but usually I'll have like those 3 presentations: topwater, bottom of the river, and something mid column in the water. And I'm going back, and I don't know if you're actually talking about musky fishing or if you're talking about bass fishing. You say toothy critters, so maybe you're talking about musky. If you're talking about musky, I kind of like one person to be on top water and one person to be subsurface. I obviously would not use a Ned rig if I was fishing for muskie. Probably I'd have somebody using a bucktail or something like that. But it really depends on, like you said here, the weather. It depends on the body of water, the depth, how active the fish are, the water temperature. So there's more to it than just always starting with the same thing. But that being said, I do have things that I consider my like go-to lures that I have had success in the past, and I like to use those first. I don't know where I've read or heard this before, but I have like my ABC baits, right? And it's the already been chewed baits. And those already been chewed baits are the ones that I have confidence with. Confidence knowing that somebody, probably myself or a client, has caught a fish with that bait on the same body of water at some point in the recent time, and I know that it has a good potential of being eaten. That tells me, hey, it might work, and we'll go usually with that route. I don't like throwing crazy, wacky baits unless we've already caught fish. So, for instance, some people like to fish with like the savage duck or the savage gear, like bat. I think there's a bat, or I even have a snake right here. Oof, I just took a hook through my hand. There we go. So, this is a snake. Now, some people like starting with wacky gear like that because it's the beginning of the day. Get the wacky stuff out of the way. I prefer doing things a little differently. I'd rather start with gear that I know has worked, catch a fish, and then if you want to start throwing weird stuff, start throwing the weird stuff after that. But I guess that's just me. Everyone does it a little differently. All right, so this is WNY Bow Hunter. He says, I don't know if there's a question in here. Oh, what technique or area of musky fishing do you feel you're weakest at and would like to do more to improve? There's two parts. Two parts of musky fishing that I feel are my weakest. Spring, fall, absolutely my weakest musky fishing knowledge, information, whatever, technique. I don't even know the word I'm looking for. Spring and fall, I don't know what I'm doing particularly, and I feel frustrated because I know fish should be there, but I just don't do well, and I'm not quite sure the reason for that. I think it might be the high water in the spring and the cold water in the fall, but they both tend to slow down my style of fishing to the point where I don't really catch fish. I guess the other thing that I'd say is maybe something I'd like to work on is I want to have more consistency with my figure eight or loop or boat side technique. I tend to get lazy when I'm fishing, and I know I'd have better hookup ratio if I was more active in my figure eight style. So we all can work on different aspects of fishing, right? All right, Todd Shook. Hey there, Todd. Todd says, "What is your favorite musky lure?" Favorite musky lure, probably. Favorite musky lure. I don't know if I have a favorite musky lure today. I really enjoy bucktails. I think that they are versatile and useful, and they're generally fairly easy to use. So I like bucktails, but I mean, I don't have a favorite lure. But if I had a favorite way of catching a fish, I think I'd say topwater. I like catching fish on topwater just because when you have a bite, when you have a fish. It's super cool watching the V wake coming up behind a topwater lure. So that would be my favorite way to catch a muskie. But that's not exactly maybe my favorite lure. Mark Miller says, knowing that there are lots of miles of open space in the UP, how much time do you spend on travel to get to your favorite spots? Too much time. Too much time. So in the UP, it gets crazy light, crazy early in the morning. I think in like the summer, like the sun comes up at like 4, I think. I might be making that up. I don't know. So to get out there and start fishing early, it can be a bit of a chore. Some people like to be fishing at like the crack of dawn. That's not really my style. I can show up a couple hours after the sun is up and do just fine. But I travel I'm fairly well traveled in the UP. Although that being said, I do want to get over to the eastern half a little bit more this year because there's some cool fishing opportunities over there that are on my radar. The robot mode says, do you ever think you will get some more ice fishing videos? Robot mode, yes, I do. I think I'm going ice fishing tomorrow. Although it's going to be so cold, I don't even think I'm going to bring my cameras because it just doesn't work. So, yes, I will eventually get more ice fishing videos one of these days. All right, Wyatt C says he's curious if I have any tips for fishing streamers for smallmouth. Fishing streamers for smallmouth. First, I'm not a very good fly fisherman, so I just want to throw that out there. But when I fish for smallmouth with streamers, let's see, tip. Keep your rod tip down. So you got your fly rod. Don't be stripping with your fly rod going up. Angle it all the way down, even into the water. Put it into the water. Strip. When you do then get that strip set, you're not going to have bend in the rod. So if your rod tip's up and you strip set, what happens is your rod is going to bend over. And it's not going to be nearly as effective. Okay, so if your rod tip's down, facing the fish, and you're stripping in, and a fish bites, you strip, set, lift up, and that's maybe my biggest tip for streamer fishing. Although, again, I don't really know what I'm doing when it comes to fly fishing for bass, so take that suggestion with a little bit of caution. All right, CA Yak Fishing says, why are muskies so much more delicate compared to northern pike? Any tips on how to handle them for when I catch my first? How long is too much time out of the water? CA Yak Fishing, that's a great question. First, I have no idea why muskie are more delicate than pike. Not sure. I don't know if the misconception... I don't know if it's a misconception that they're more delicate. Maybe both species are delicate. I don't really know. All I know is that there's a couple of really... I'm trying to find the words here. Musky fishermen are very concerned about the well-being of the musky fishery, and for that reason, there's a lot of information out there on how to hold muskie and all of that. I would say don't take a muskie out of the water unless you are taking it out of the water to get a picture. After that, leave it in the water. There is no reason to take the muskie out of the water unless you're taking a picture or quickly bump boarding it and putting it back in. But the truth of the matter is, if you're fishing for muskie, you should have a muskie net. You should net the muskie. The muskie net should be large enough to basically be a live well for the fish. If you catch a muskie and you pull it up onto rocks or grass or dirt, I can't, I don't condone that. I think that that's really poor fishing ethics, and it frustrates me when I see people do that. Muskie are big fish. They take a long time to get how large they are, and so they really do need to be treated well so that that resource is still there. When it comes to actually holding muskie, I never take the fish completely out of the water to take the hooks out. what I do is I put my hand down, I grab just the head of the fish only, the rest of the body's in the water. I then get the hooks out, then I lift the fish, stay in the net. When I'm ready then for the photo, I will go down, grab it, support the body, take the picture, put it back in the water, hold its tail, let water run through its gills, not against the gills, but through its gills, hold it there until it kind of tenses up and it kind of gets ready to kick off. And at that point, she'll kick, let her go on her way. Don't fish for muskie unless you have a net, hook cutters, and a good set of pliers. And a plan. There you go, and a plan. I've seen people before have some very poor handling of muskie, and it just really, really bothers me. I've seen people before take their fingers and actually pick muskie up by their eyes. Okay, they stuck both their fingers straight into the eyes and picked the fish up like that. Yeah. And then let the fish go. Not good ethics when it comes to fishing. All right. Jack Chien says, have you ever been to Lake Malawi? Lake Malawi, for those of you that don't know, I believe is one of the Great Lakes of Africa. Africa has, I think, 5 Great Lakes in like the central south section. They're like massive lakes. But that being said, no, I have not fished Lake Malawi. I did go to Lake Tanganyika, but I didn't fish. But I have been there. But they're like super cool. I think Lake Tanganyika is, I don't know, like 2,000 feet deep. It's crazy. I could be making that up, but it's. I think there's like more water in Lake Tanganyika than there is in Lake Superior. So if that tells you anything, it's basically an inland sea. Lost Bear Outdoors says, my question, what are your favorite moments fishing with your little ones? Currently, I only have one little one, and she is turning 3 in like 2 weeks. So she's a little bit too young to fish. But my favorite moments with her, actually, I caught a fish this year, and she was there with me, and I think she might have touched it or kissed it or something, and it was really cool. She said, like, hey, it's a fishy or something like that. And that was a really special moment. I really hope she turns out to be a little fisher woman herself someday. All right, Sean Kieran, hey there, dude. He says, what's one fish that you haven't yet caught but want to catch in the near future? A fish that I haven't caught that I want to catch. Let's see. King salmon in Michigan. I'd like to catch a big king. I'd like to catch some steelhead. I'd like to catch burbot, lake trout, more brown trout, rainbows, sturgeon. I'd like to catch sturgeon. I think maybe that's about it. You know, it's just a few. Max Roush maybe? He says, how do you break down new musky water? New musky water. How do I break it down? Well, I usually try to fish with more than one angler if I'm fishing a new body of water. That way you have more chances to get follows, to use different style of fishing, to use different baits. More anglers, the better, to figure out a pattern. New body of water, how do I break it down? I usually fish shallow to deep, if that makes sense. I go shallower first, and then I work progressively going deeper. I like fishing in water where I can see the bottom or see vegetation. If it's the water's so deep that I can't see vegetation at all, usually I don't fish it. I don't fish with electronics either, so I never really truly know how deep I am. So if I can't see veg, I usually generally consider myself to be too deep. But usually I'm tossing some style of a bait that would be like an all-around, bucktail or something like that, that could be buzzed fast and shallow, or maybe let it go down a little bit deeper into the slightly deeper stuff. That's probably how I would break down a new body of water. Paul Woj says, what pound leaders do you use when pike are around? Then he says, foregoing steel leaders. I guess I need a little bit more. I need a little bit of help here with your question. Do you mean targeting pike, or just a leader that you use if you're fishing for something else and pike are in the same water? Because it depends on how my answer is going to be responding to you. If I'm fishing in water and I'm targeting smallmouth, but I know that pike are in the vicinity, I usually use 40-pound fluoro. I think it's called Rio saltwater tippet is usually what I use, and that usually stops most bite-offs if I'm targeting smallmouth. If I'm targeting pike, then I would usually always go with a steel leader. I guess for pike I might use this 80-pound fluorocarbon, but if I'm targeting pike or targeting muskie, I'm usually going to use metal. So hopefully that answered your question there, Paul Woj. VA Outdoors Sportsman says, are there any specific patterns or style of lures that you focus on with smallies as the season progresses from early spring into summer into late fall? So I don't really target smallmouth in the early spring or the late fall. I try to target them, but I don't know what the heck I'm doing. So no, there isn't really truly a progression that I use. If I knew what I was doing, then I would probably be able to answer that question better, but river fishing is a struggle in early spring and late fall for me. I don't think that I'm targeting the right spots when I'm fishing at those times, so I don't catch fish. But in summer I do. So I don't know. I can't really say specific patterns or style of lures. I know a lot of people use jerkbaits early year in the spring, but I haven't really had great success with that myself. And in the fall, couldn't tell you. So I apologize. I can't really do you a solid there. We got William Kaczermak, Merrick, maybe. He says, he asks, why don't I give away a fishing trip to some of my favorite areas as like the giveaway? So William, I did, and I have done this in the past, but I got a lot of flack the last time that I did that from some fairly angry locals, and I try my best to respect all anglers, and for that reason I haven't done that recently, but maybe I will in the future. We'll see. But I never, I don't take people to my favorite locations. I try to usually go to new places and we learn a body of water together. I think that's a little bit more fun, is a little bit of exploration, if that makes sense. Derek Knop says, how do you handle the low seating height of fishing from a kayak so often? He says he struggles with fishing from a low seating position and it makes it hard to see in the water. So how do I handle the low seat on the kayak? Well, my kayak actually has kind of an elevated seat on it. I don't know what style of kayak you're using, but I highly encourage a sit-on-top kayak with a nice elevated seat. It makes the fishing much, much easier. If you're on a sit-inside kayak with one of those kind of old crappy seats that they used to make, it is tough. And I don't really think there are any good options for you. Go with the sit on top. Use an actual fishing kayak. The elevated seat will help you. Additionally, alternatively, you could stand and fish from those kayaks. But the standing is a little bit tricky. So, it depends on your flexibility and stability. That would be my biggest suggestion for you, Derek. Humpy Camp Nostrovia. What retrieve direction, cross current, up current, or down drift do you seem to get most strikes from Muskie? Down current, cross current, up current. Cross current. I think I'm going to say cross current. Cast upstream. As it's swinging, you're bringing it cross current. I'd say that most bites probably occur then. But obviously, cast wherever you can, whatever looks to be the best holding water. It really depends on the river. I don't think there's a go-to cast that works every time. I think it truly depends on where you're at and what you're doing. Michael Pruis maybe, says, you're smallmouth fishing with just one rod and what bait? What is it? All right, I'm fishing for smallies. I got one rod and one bait. What am I fishing with? 6'6" is what I'm gonna go with. I don't really like 7-foot rods. I think they're just a little bit too long, and I'm usually walking through the woods and I want to break stuff, and 6.5 is perfect for me. 6 foot is not long enough. So 6.5 foot rod. I'm going to have, I don't know, probably a 3,000, maybe a 3,000, maybe a 3,500 style reel, spinning reel that is, and I'm going to be rigged up with, let's say, 20-pound braid to a double uni knot down to, I don't know, let's say 20-pound fluorocarbon, 4 feet of that, and my bait is going to be, I don't know. Let's go with a trusty Mepps spinner. I think that would be my go-to. Trusty Mepps spinner. It works everywhere. And so there we go. That's what we're going to do. If one bait, one rod, one bait, I'm going to try to catch fish. James Barron says, what is your favorite fish to catch, and what is your favorite fish to eat? Favorite fish to catch is smallmouth. Smallmouth are tons of fun to catch. They're fun. Everybody loves smallmouth. Favorite fish to eat, not smallmouth. That being said, I have eaten smallmouth. If I killed the fish on accident, I don't want to let it go to waste. I've taken them home. But my favorite fish to eat is probably halibut or salmon. Fresh halibut or fresh salmon straight out of the Gulf of Alaska. So very good, especially when my wife is cooking it up. But if I have to cook it, then I'm going to do halibut fish tacos. Absolutely delicious. So good. All right, let's keep going. We got Josh Booker. He says, what is your favorite river to fish in the UP? Josh, I appreciate your question. I like your question. Unfortunately, I'm not going to answer that question. I have a rule on my channel of trying to respect local fishermen as best as I can, and I don't know, 5 years ago or 4 years ago or something, I made a change on my channel where I stopped naming locations and I removed all my content that named anything. And the reason for that is I want to promote the Upper Peninsula without exploiting the Upper Peninsula, and I don't want to bring any undue pressure to any locations, and for that reason, I don't mention what my favorite river is. Um, for instance, some of my videos I've had 100,000 views on them, and let's imagine that I said, go fish this river, this bait, this style. How many of those people would go and fish that river? Obviously, not all 100,000 of them, but 100 of them, maybe, possibly. Is that too much pressure? I don't know. A couple of years ago, I went out to a place, a lake that I like to fish at, and I showed up. And as I showed up, I saw two people leaving, and they said, hey, you're Haight's Wanderings. And I was like, yeah, hey, how are you doing? They said, hey, we're fishing here because of you. And I said, oh, okay, cool. They said, we saw your video, and so we decided to come here. And I was like, oh, cool, that you must be local, right? And they said, no, we drove from Chicago. And I was like, wait, you drove 7 hours to fish this place? And I was a little bit surprised. And so I went out on my kayak and I was fishing. A couple hours later, a guy in a kayak comes on up and he says, hey, you're Haight's Wanderings, right? And I said, yeah, hey, how you doing? He's like, oh, hey, I saw this video and I decided to come fish here because of you. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so it was like that day when I realized I need to not tell the names of locations. And it's not that I don't like helping people find fish. It's that I don't want local people to feel that I am, selling their secrets or something like that. And I know that was a long, convoluted response. But my answer, what's my favorite river to fish in the UP? All of them. I love fishing all rivers. Check them all out. They're all fun. Just wear your life jacket and know what you're doing, because there are some dangerous places if you don't know what you're doing. All right, Ruckus says, what is the best affordable chest waders? I have no idea. I wear a pair of Orvis waders. They've been working well for me. But I also have a pro deal with Orvis as a guide, so I don't know. I don't know how that works for the regular angler. They're kind of expensive, but they work well, so check them out if you have a little bit of extra money. But you did say affordable waders, so I don't know. Waders are stupid expensive, so I don't know, my man. Jim D says, what is the best month to fish in the UP? Hey there, Jim. Let's see, best month to fish in the UP. Depends on the species you're going for, but I assume you're going for warm water species. So anytime in the summer. Honestly, it's all good. Depending on the weather, it's all good. M. Brown says, what's your favorite boat to fish from? Inflatable or kayak? I used to love fishing from the kayak. The problem is I'm getting a little bit older, and the kayak is a little bit of a chore if there's any wind because I don't have an anchor. So I like fishing from the raft because it allows me to stand and it has an anchor. But if there was no wind, no current, then I'd probably say the kayak, because the kayak is just a great, great thing to fish out of. Luke Van Blois says, I'm thinking about buying a raft. Do you recommend buying a trailer or using the bed of my pickup for transport? Well, Luke, it depends on your strength, your flexibility, your truck. If you're a younger guy and maybe you're fishing with somebody else that can help you, then I would say put it in the back of a truck. It's really, really effective and useful. However, if you're going to fish by yourself, you might want the trailer. If you're a little bit older, you might want the trailer. I'm 34, and sometimes getting the Hooligan by myself into the back of the truck is darn near impossible. If it's at a weird angle or an incline, it can be really tough. Totally doable, but it's much easier when you have a secondary person to help you. Alright guys, so if it looks a little different than I did earlier, my battery died, but I am back. We're finishing up this Q&A. So this comes from Tutang Lore, asking what is my favorite bass fishing lure. You know, I don't really have a favorite bass fishing lure, but I love topwater. Topwater is so much fun. It's not the most effective, but it's absolutely the most fun. So anything topwater, that's what I'm all about. So Jake Crone asks, do I ever fish in northern Wisconsin? And the answer is yeah, I love fishing in northern Wisconsin. I just don't get over there very often. But I hopefully plan to do some videos this year in northern Wisconsin if I can. The Funk in CT asks, what's your favorite fishing story of all time? Favorite fishing story of all time? I was working in Alaska. I was working with my cousin, and the two of us were deckhands, and we're fishing for one of the most fun fish in the Gulf of Alaska, which are lingcod. So our captain has our 43-foot delta, and we are drifting sideways with the current over a reef of some sort. This reef is at about 100 feet of water, so we're drifting over it sideways, and all of our clients are on one side of the boat, and they're jigging with 1 pound jig heads. So we're catching fish, and we also have a couple of anglers that have salmon jigs, which are much smaller, and they're fishing for black rockfish. So most of our energy is catching the lingcod, and a couple of people are catching rockfish. And at one point, we have an angler that goes down, hooks into a black rockfish, and is bringing it up. At which point, this rod, and a black rockfish is like, think of it like it's kind of like a largemouth bass, but it's black, and they can get up to be like, I don't know, 10 pounds or something, but usually they're in the, I don't know, 5 pound range. So it's really good on like a salmon rod. It's a fun fish to catch. So the angler's bringing it up, and his black rockfish starts to pull drag, and we realize it's a much larger fish. Finally, after a while, we look down in the water, and the waters in Alaska are really clear, so we can see down in, and we see that there is a black rockfish, like a 5 pound black rockfish, with a lingcod attached to the back of it, and another lingcod attached to the front of it. So there's this one fish that has 2 other fish attached to it, and it's just slowly coming up. So lingcod are kind of like, I don't know, alligators or the crocodiles of the Alaskan oceans there. They'll bite onto something and they simply hold on. So for 100 feet, 2 fish have been pulled up attached to this one. My cousin grabs a gaff, I grab a gaff, and if you don't know what a gaff is, it's a long handle down to a hook, right? And then you hit the fish in the head and you can pull it up into the boat, because we were fishing for meat, not for sport. So the fish are coming up. we tell the client, like, when you get the fish to the surface, don't pull any further, because if you pull the fish out of the water, then the other ones will let go. But as long as you pull them all the way up, we can gaff it. So he gets them to the surface. My cousin's ready. I'm ready. My cousin, she hits the first lingcod. I hit the second lingcod at the same time. We pull them into the boat. We pull the black rockfish into the boat, and it was probably the coolest thing I've ever seen, I've ever done. We then took this bat right here, which is called the Seward Slugger. This is actually Seward, Alaska. That's where I worked out of in Alaska, and this is my, well, not really mine. This is actually my cousin's fish killing bat. If you notice, there are still scales. I don't know if you can see that right there. See that scale? There are still scales on this bat from when I worked in Alaska. By the way, if my cousin is watching this right now, Abby, I have your fish bat. Let me know if you want it back. So, whoop, and it just fell. So that's probably my best fish story that I have currently. 2 trophy lingcod on a single black rockfish. Thank you for helping me relive that story there, Funk and CT. Let's keep going. Connor McCulkey, I think that's how you pronounce your last name, Connor. He says, do you remember the moment you fell in love with fishing? The moment I fell in love with fishing, geez, I think I do, actually. I was in a John boat. I must have been like 6 or 7 in a John boat. And I was with my grandpa Mel. And so Grandpa Mel, it was my first time fly fishing. And I was like 7 or something, right? So he took me to this local pond. We're in a John boat. And we are like 20 feet off of the lily pads. And we're getting our fly right up there to the lilies. We're just giving a little bit of wiggle, little poppers, and we're hearing the bluegill come up and just go. And that was the first time I ever caught fish on a fly rod, bluegills, and I think I might have fallen in love with fishing at that moment. If you've never caught bluegill on a fly rod, it's a dream. Go do it. It's so much fun. Poppers, little spider poppers, foam leg spiders. James Sowash asks, what is my favorite lake in northern Alger County? I don't even know. I don't even know. I can't even add. I don't know all of them. Let's keep going. I do believe that actually is the last comment. If for some reason I missed any of your comments, I do apologize. I was going through on my phone, and sometimes it's a little wonky and some of the comments don't show up. So hopefully I got to all of them. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. It's probably been over an hour. I have no idea. Fishing is going to soon be in full effect. 2 more months. 2 more months? What is it? It's February right now, right? February, March, April. Okay, so 2.5 months, and we are going to have a trout opener video coming back to you guys. Hopefully we catch some quality brook trout, maybe even some quality brown trout. Who knows? Hopefully we get it done. All right, guys, without further ado, catch, release, wander. I will see you in the next one. Right on.